Coming up on American Friction, Trump is going to war with members of his own party in the Senate. How is this latest temper tantrum going to play out? Nikki, get us going then.
Welcome back. You're listening to American Friction.
This is American Friction, and I'm Jacob Jarvis, and of course we are joined by Nikki McCann Ramirez. I'm using the Royal Week. There's no Chris today. Nikki, how are you?
I'm great.
Good.
What a day. What a week.
Yeah, congratulations to Mexico.
We are the best team in this tournament.
Yeah, I think
unbeatable.
It would be fun if you went all the way. I would find that enjoyable.
It would be fun. I think I would riot.
Yeah. Well, listeners, if you want that to happen, give all your support to Mexico. Yeah, Chris, I'm not sure where he is. I think he's at some sort of breakfast food items convention or something he was talking about, where they just go and try out different types of beans and cereals. It's his sort of thing.
Does Chris
but anyway,
like hash browns?
Oh, I'm sure Chris likes hash browns, but who doesn't? I think it'd be very odd not to. Do you like hash browns?
I like hash browns.
Good. We were gonna end the podcast
what's your favorite
there.
kind of breakfast potato?
I mean, hash brown, I think, yeah.
Okay.
On a tangent already. We need Chris and Simon here to pull us in. Nikki, so Trump is losing his shit with senators, let's say, in the, I think that's the official way of describing it. What do we know about this big closed-door meeting he had where he was calling people lunatics and so on?
Chris says our potato question isn't making the edit.
No, listeners, you want the potato.
He's so mean to me. So Congress, much like this podcast, the inmates are running the asylum today and yesterday.
Nice.
We got to set some backstory about this meeting. So we record on Thursdays, dear listeners. Sometimes that's fine. You know, we have most of the week, the news week, done by then. Sometimes something insane happens at 3 p.m. Eastern time on a Wednesday, and it throws the entire episode into chaos. It's fine. This is one of those nice weeks where it seems like everything happened before we hit record. On Tuesday, the Senate, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it in more detail in a second, but I think people need to know it exists. The Senate passed a resolution, a non-binding resolution, essentially saying, Mr. Trump, you do not have congressional permission to do this war, the war with Iran. Earlier this month, the House passed a similar resolution. Again, it's mostly a symbolic gesture. Trump can just be like, middle finger.
Yeah. Because weirdly, he never had, it's like they're officially
he
telling him he didn't have permission, but we know he didn't have permission.
Yeah,
he didn't seek it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a little relevant just because the Pentagon is trying to get $80 billion in funding for this war. And that was the other thing that was going on in the background today. But anyway, the Senate passes this on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing it passes on Tuesday is a giant, like, kind of generational housing affordability bill. It's bipartisan. They had, like, widespread support from both parties. Congress hadn't passed major legislation related to housing affordability and housing in general, really, like a big one. And I think about 30 years. This would have basically banned private equity from buying single family homes. It would have, at the federal level, gotten rid of a bunch of construction regulations that just make it harder to build. I think the one that kind of stands out to me and I think is a good indicator of the kind of thing is like London and England. You guys have a lot of brownstones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
those houses. What's a brownstone?
It's the houses that are all kind of stuck together. Like you all share a wall on both
terraced
sides.
Housing. Yeah. Terraced housing.
We call them brownstones here.
Okay.
But for example, if your neighbors both had an environmental review done and you're in between them, you don't have to have an environmental review to get your permit to like build.
Okay.
Stuff like that. Basically just kind of like cutting through red tape.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff for community housing, a lot of stuff for affordable housing. This was a big win, and it would have been a big win for Trump and Republicans because obviously there's a lot of unpopular shit going on right now. Congress really hasn't done anything legislatively in the last 8 months. They can barely get funding for individual agencies through the two chambers because things are so gridlocked. I think, listeners will remember all the episodes we did about the ICE shutdown, the funding shutdown at DHS.
Well, weirdly, this housing bill sounds like the sort of thing that is, you can frame it both ways as a win for the left and a win for the right. It just feels like it hits all the sort of markers of, we don't want you involved in our lives, government, leave us alone, don't tread on me, let me do what I want, red tape sucks, right-wing talking points. And then at the same time, it hits the fucking woke commie blob talking points they want to criticize or whatever. But you know what I mean? It like the Mamdani wing or whatever is going to be happy with the fact that you can maybe looking after people in a really rich country and making sure they have good housing. That's good. 100%. That seems like a straightforward thing. So it just feels to me, I don't know how anyone could not have framed it as a win all the way around. Well, yeah.
There's a guy.
Donald Trump. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, this was a huge win, you know, amid like the Iran war, the affordability crisis, you know, the oil shock over everything going on in the Middle East, that in like rising inflation, this continued fallout of the tariffs, which we don't really talk about anymore. And then the very prominent image of Trump spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on his vanity projects in DC, like the UFC fight and the fucking debacle of the reflecting pool. Trump really needed a win. And he quite literally stole defeat from the mouth of victory. On Wednesday morning, Congress was ready for a signing ceremony, because that's how it works here. The House and the Senate pass it, and then it goes to the president, and the president signs it, and it becomes law. Everything's ready for a signing ceremony. The Republican Senate caucus was actually supposed to have their sort of like quarterly closed door lunch with Trump. Okay. He's invited to Congress. Everyone, like, they talk, they strategize. It's all off the record. There's no reporters allowed. It's sort of just a chance for Senate Republicans and Senate leadership and just rank and file lawmakers to talk to him. Trump is supposed to come, and I think the plan was that before the lunch, they'd have the signing ceremony with all the reporters, and then they would kick the reporters out and do their thing. But there were like the flags and all the like gold little tablecloths and whatever the fuck, all the things Trump likes. Like 3 hours before it happens, Trump gets on Truth Social and he's like, actually, it's canceled until you pass the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act, as listeners will recall, being this largely unconstitutional, but potentially transformative piece of electoral legislation that Trump is trying to force Republicans to pass, that would require proof of citizen to register to vote, voter ID, give the federal government a lot more control over voter rolls. Yeah. It's essentially an attempt by Trump to rig the midterms. If it passes, millions and millions and millions and millions, I can't overstate how many people would immediately lose their voter registrations.
Yeah. And for him to vindicate his bullshit around 2020, right, as well, to say, like, look, I've had to pass this because it shows, look how widespread the fraud was, and clearly it was widespread. We've had to put in laws for it. So it gets him to say that that's true as well.
And Republican lawmakers understand that this law would probably disenfranchise maybe as many Republicans as Democrats. And we've talked about it in past episodes, but one of the big things is married women who change their names to their husband's name. They may not have documents that it might be a problem for them because they might need to get documents that match. A lot of women don't actually go back and like have their birth certificate changed or their passport changed, that kind of thing on their IDs.
Like 1930s.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then the other thing is that, yes, the idea is that you're targeting Democrats in this bill, but a lot of Democrats are a lot closer to voter registration places. There are election offices and like polling places and places where I can go to do government business all around me in New York. If you're a rural voter in the middle of nowhere and someone tells you you have to drive 2 to 3 hours on a workday to your nearest election office to present your birth certificate in person, you might not even have a copy of your birth certificate. The first thing is you might have to go to like the county clerk's office to request a copy of it and then wait a couple months for that. And then that's going to be really bad for a lot of Republican voters. So Trump doesn't have the votes to do this. You would need 60 votes in the Senate to pass it because of the filibuster rules. And those votes don't exist. And Leader John Thune, everyone's been abundantly clear to Trump, like, this is not passing. You are not getting the support. even if we got rid of the filibuster, it is very likely it will not pass. There are Republican senators in very competitive re-election races that don't want to nuke the electorate right now. But Trump, because he felt snubbed over this fucking Senate resolution to condemn the Iran war, a war he wants to get out of, I think mentally he was like, all right, well, if you're going to tell me that I can't do this, I'm going to do this to you. It was like very petty revenge. And so this lunch that they have just descends into kind of a screaming match between Trump and Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, who is losing his seat because Trump backed a primary challenger against him. They apparently got into it. Trump called him a lunatic. At one point, Cassidy, I think, did what I do, where he went like, brother.
Full Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, like the brother, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone's upset.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows what's going to happen to this bipartisan piece of legislation that theoretically would make housing cheaper and better and easier to build. And here we are.
The weird thing about him blowing up at this war resolution, and maybe I'm taking too much of a stretch here, but he wants an out on this war, right?
Yes.
And is there not some part of him that might have been able to go, well, I don't want to back down from this war, but my hands are tied, so unfortunately, because of Congress, I will have to. And he could have maybe turned it into go, well, Congress are the losers. I'm not the loser. I would have kept doing the war, and I think we would have won. But seeing as Congress have said no, I don't know, is there a way to... I mean, it's obviously bullshit, but we know he revels in framing stuff in bullshit ways. To me, a smart Trump potentially could have used that as some sort of out there.
I mean, maybe if the resolution was actually binding, but I think the United States is so far past the point where any president will concede that Congress has the authority to tell them, no, you can't blow that thing up. Like, no president's ever going to give that up. They've taken so much unilateral authorization power away from Congress that it would it basically contradicts the entire philosophy of the Republican movement of the last almost 30 years, but also Democratic presidents who'd been like, no, actually, I like to be able to hit the button.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's been plenty of those who's gone, well, yeah, I'd like to do left-wing stuff, but then the Middle East.
Obama.
Yeah, exactly. But when you look at Congress then on this, as you have pointed out there, this doesn't feel particularly binding in any way. Well, it simply isn't. Is there any way now they can push to be firmer having done that, or they seem to have backtracked on it a bit anyway? What's going on there? And is it just a case of, well, the cat's out of the bag, so saying whatever they like now is kind of too late?
Definitely. I think one of the biggest things here is I mentioned the Pentagon is seeking 80-ish billion, I believe, in funding for the war. That is going to have to come from Congress. And I don't see a world where Congress continues to authorize blank checks for the war. Also, Trump has kind of created a problem for himself. As we've discussed over the past couple months, Trump has been leveling primary challenges against Republicans that he does not like. And helping push really hardline MAGA candidates through the primaries. He did it to Bill Cassidy. He did it to John Cornyn in Texas, Thomas Massie in the House. The problem is that until January of next year, those people that he has now made lame ducks are still in Congress.
Yeah.
So we're seeing the emergence of what people are referring to, and they're kind of referring to themselves as the YOLO caucus, the You Only Live Once caucus. And it's this group of people who are basically leaving governance. Because also, outside of people who've been primaried, you have a really big cohort of lawmakers who are like, I'm just retiring. Like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. This caucus, which, to be clear, hasn't done an insane amount of actual practical checking of Trump yet. But they exist and they are vocal and they vote And a couple of them were pretty instrumental to passing these 2 resolutions in the House and Senate condemning the war. So, especially after Cassidy and Trump got into it at the meeting on Wednesday, I would expect to see a lot more instances where some of these people say, you want $80 billion for the war in Iran? I'm not voting for that. I'm not letting it pass out of committee. And that kind of thing. And in that sense, because the margins are still really narrow, one of the things that, if we want to talk about the J.D. Vance of it all pretty briefly, if J.D. Vance has to start becoming the tie-breaking vote in the Senate on a lot of really unpopular policy positions and like initiatives that Trump wants done, but some lawmakers are resisting, that's going to be bad for him, worse for him than the situation he's already in.
Would J.D. Vance potentially be better off losing his job? That sounds like a crazy thing to say, but at this point, it does just feel like, it's only going to get worse for the guy. And it feels almost like Ted Cruz, who you get more and more embarrassing to the point that you just have no credibility left. Yeah. Is that what's going to happen to JD? If I was JD Vance, I would just want him to fire me. So I could just set myself up as saying, see, and now I can be the difference in 2028. Fuck this guy.
Yeah. I think in a lot of ways, people are going to hate this. I think J.D. Vance is kind of in a similar, not analogous, not exactly the same, but similar position as Kamala Harris. You have an aging president who's clearly no longer at the top of his game, is very visibly declining in front of the public eye. Your administration and the media around you is continuing to insist that everything is fine. He's actually perfect. It's going great. While at the same time, you are being forced to defend or at least stand by the improper, immoral, and, messy handling of a very unpopular foreign war. In Biden's case, it was Gaza. And it was the U.S.'s continued complacency in the genocide. It was the U.S. continuing to give money to Israel. Biden would not condemn it. Biden continued to insist that, Israel was our best friend and greatest ally, and we had to see this through to the end. And Harris, especially when she became the nominee, was very hesitant to distance herself from the decisions that Biden had made. She wouldn't break from him on a lot of issues, and it ended up hurting her. And I think Vance is in a similar position where, Trump is old, he's looking decrepit. The concealer spot on the hand keeps expanding. There's now this whole conspiracy that he's taking this insane weight loss drug that is specifically for people with pulmonary hypertension, which is really, it's like really
worrying.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Vance is being made the face of the administration's response to the Iran war. It used to be Pete Hegseth. But like Hegseth and Marco Rubio have very intelligently kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
Or disappeared, or were like, cartoon style, like the hook.
Yeah.
That like drags you off stage.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
And now Vance is kind of looking like the fall guy. So I don't know. I think yeah.
I just think if you're going to fall quickly,
Fall quickly and get the hell out of there,
just get it done and let people forget. As give them as long as you can. There's other hurdles happening with Trump then as well. Let's just quickly look at the Supreme Court. He seems to be having beef there. What's going on, and how is that a change from how it's been so far? Because it seems to me he's been getting through pretty much whatever he wants as a Supreme Court, and now that looks like it might end.
The court this past week basically issued a flurry of decisions that essentially, I don't want to get into explaining each and every one, said, Trump administration, you have these policies that people don't necessarily like. You actually can continue doing that until the lower courts sort it out. You don't have to stop while the lower courts figure out this stuff. And I think this mostly had to do with deportation policies, that kind of thing. Things like whether he could revoke TPS for protected groups like Venezuelans, Haitians, all that kind of thing. What it feels like and what people think is going to happen is that these decisions were kind of here's a little lollipop for the Supreme Court getting ready to reject Trump's bid to end birthright citizenship. Because that one is clearly, that's so blatantly unconstitutional. It is not even a pretzel. You know, like that box, that drawer of cables you have in your house? That's just a black hole for spare cables.
Yeah.
And then one day you're like, I need this one HDMI thing, and it takes you like 30 minutes to untangle the whole thing and actually get it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's the sort of logic the Trump administration is using to claim that the 14th Amendment doesn't say what it actually says.
Yeah, the birthright shit is kind of fundamentally saying America isn't America.
Yeah,
is almost 100%. Like. Yeah.
And I think one of the things here is this is also going to be pretty big for the notion that the president can just override a constitutional amendment via edict.
Yeah.
Because the Constitution says that if you want to amend the Constitution, you have to go through Congress.
Yeah.
So it looks like the Supreme Court is poised to reject that. Trump is obviously pissed because he built this Supreme Court in order to give him whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, and they have given him so much. The Roberts Court is going to be responsible for some of the most disastrous decisions, is responsible for what are going to amount to some of the most disastrous decisions in the history of the court. The Louisiana redistricting decision is going to set back civil rights, particularly in the South, by decades and decades and decades. And that's on the Roberts Court. That's on these justices, and it's on Trump. But in this one instance, I think it's just so obvious that he cannot do that, that they don't really have any other choice.
Is Trump weirdly, with these pushbacks he's getting here, is he turning himself into a bit of a lame duck early?
I think Trump has embraced lame duckishness, lame duckery for a while now. Duckism.
Yeah.
Quack, quack. Actually, yeah.
It's
It's really sad because I don't know if this news has made it all the way to the UK, but it seems like... Why are you laughing? This is serious. This is so serious. I'm so dead ass
okay.
right now.
Yeah, no, cool. I like ducks, so yeah.
Yeah, you like ducks? Well, you know what Trump is doing with his fucking reflecting pool nonsense? He's killing the baby ducklings.
No.
They have found 3 dead ducks. 3 dead ducks around the reflecting pool.
What?
Including a baby.
That's fucked.
Yeah, not so funny now, is it,
No,
Jarv?
it's not. I like ducks a lot.
I love ducks.
That's pissed me off. How?
Yeah.
How are they dying? Because the fucking pool just sucks so much it's killing them.
Well, they're doing necropsies on them, but I have 3 theories.
What?
3 working theories.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're
So the first one
really
is
getting into the duck issue here.
Yeah, no, so the thing is the algae that is in the reflecting pool may have turned like toxic, like poisonous.
Okay.
That is a possibility. The other possibility is that whatever chemicals they were using to treat the algae were what actually killed the ducks. And then the third possibility, which I think at least one of the ducks is gonna have this, is that because the pool lining is peeling and like breaking off into chunks, that one of the ducks may have swallowed a piece and died.
That sucks. Well,
yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, that does. Well, so back to Trump being a lame duck, but not a dead duck.
So not a dead duck.
So
not a dead duck.
Count his blessings.
He really should. I think Trump spent most of his political capital on the big beautiful bill. And I don't think he's going to get a lot of major legislation out of Congress in the next 6 months, especially with everything we just discussed about like the YOLO caucus and him basically saying that any legislative victory that Congress might have is going to be undercut by his desire to have the SAVE Act, which they're not going to give him.
Yeah.
I think we are looking at a wave election. It is I think Democrats are guaranteed to at least take 1 chamber. If you're betting on it, I wouldn't bet on which one. I'd say they take at least 1. And when that happens, Trump no longer has a unified government. And that's it for him. Legislatively, that's pretty much it for his priorities. So yeah, I mean, I think he's just embracing lame duckery. And again, we've talked about it so much. His focus is beautification.
Yeah.
There's I'm actually reading the new Maggie Haberman, Jonathan Swan book.
Okay.
Regime Change, which is getting a lot of play. And there's a lot of news coming out of it. But one of the scenes that is described in the book that was described to Haberman and Swan is that one day one of Trump's aides walked into the Oval Office and caught him with like a tube of super glue and like little gold decorations, just literally gluing them onto the mantelpiece in the Oval Office.
Maxing.
Yeah, he's gold maxing. And it's just like, that's what he wants to do. He does not care about governance outside of the election stuff. That's really it.
Before we get to the roundup and appeal, a big appeal to your lovely, warm hearts. As ever, we love making the podcast and we hope you love listening to it. But for it to keep going, for it to survive, we need your support on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/American Friction to find out how you can get episodes ad-free. And as well, there is a whole bonus episode every single week, which is really, really good. This week, we're going to be talking about Tucker Carlson, which may or may not be good. Obviously, we don't like him, but it will be interesting and it will be good. It just might not be nice. But do you come here for niceness? I don't know. If you do, that's kind of strange. Anyway, patreon.com/American Friction. We'd love to have you there. There's a link in the show notes. And if you can't back us there, we get it, but please do go rate, review, subscribe, wherever you're listening to the show. Now, on to the roundup. Nikki, good news time. Good news time. Mamdani, he's been having a very good time in New York. So give us your report from the communist socialist utopia that New York is becoming right now. Let's go, Nick.
Greetings from Mamdanistan. Don't fucking say that to me. The fuck is wrong with you?
Let's go, Knicks, man. Come on. You gotta just get on the fucking bandwagon now.
No, I'm
surely.
not getting on the fucking bandwagon. I don't bandwagon. I have honor.
Bandwagon.
I have honor. You know why your country is the way it is? Because you lost your sense of dignity and of honor.
Let's go, Knicks. I'm saying it. Anyway,
okay.
Mamdani, what's happening?
Anyway.
Yeah.
So
Chris is getting so annoyed right now.
He's always annoyed. New York!
New York, Mamdani, a new dawn. Mamdani. What's going on?
So the New York primaries happened on Tuesday. And what essentially happened is that 3 candidates backed by Zoran Mamdani in sort of insane gambles won their congressional primaries, meaning that most likely, barring something insane happening, 3 allies of Mamdani, 2 of them Democratic Socialists, will be going to Congress in 2027. Because in New York, if you win your primary, you're basically guaranteed to win your election, especially in like New York City, particularly.
So were they kind of like the new squad they could be?
I mean, sort of. But the thing was, this New York, for all of, like, again, we always couch talking about New York with the fact that it's a very democratic city. What applies here does not apply in every city or state in this country. But New York is often an indicator of things to come. It is, in fact, like you said, it produced AOC, the like most prominent member of the squad. Both of the leaders of the respective Senate and House congressional delegations are from New York, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. So New York does cool stuff.
And Chuck Schumer's good as well, so that's good. We all like Chuck Schumer, right? He's the best export of New York.
I can't wait to vote against that man.
Yeah. I thought you were a Chuck Schumer stan. But yeah, surely he's got to go, right? No.
But essentially what Mamdani did was he endorsed these 3 candidates, some of them controversial, all of them pretty progressive, all of them pretty left-wing. Most, like 2 of them were up against pretty prominent Democratic incumbents. Brad Lander, who people will recall ran for mayor, lost, but like cross-endorsed Mamdani, and then people were thinking like, oh, he's going to be a second, and then Mamdani actually told him like, no, I think you should run for Congress.
Did he get arrested? Was he the guy who got arrested?
He's the guy who got arrested for helping escort migrants to and from their immigration hearings, and then ICE arrested him. Yeah, he's a real one, Brad Lander. I've met him a couple times. He ousted Dan Goldman, who I believe is the heir to the Levi's jean fortune.
Oh, wow.
Daniel is the heir to the Levi Strauss & Co. fortune.
Oh, wow. That is so much cash. That's crazy.
Yeah, so much cash. And I think this race was particularly interesting because Dan Goldman and Brad Lander are both Jewish. They both, throughout most of their careers, have supported Israel. Like, I think they call themselves liberal Zionists. But critically, Dan Goldman takes a ton of money from AIPAC and is very opposed to the use of genocide or the accusation of war crimes against Israel. Brad Lander, on the other hand, has kind of embraced the more progressive position on this. He calls it a genocide. He says the U.S. should stop giving funding to Israel, that we need to like reevaluate our relationship with that country. And obviously, if you followed the mayoral race here in New York, you know that one of the big issues was A, because Mamdani's Muslim, but B, because he was openly supportive of the Palestinian movement. People were like, he's anti-Semitic. He hates the Jews. The Jews are going to have to leave New York. Not the case. Everyone's doing fine. We're all good. They were like, Meghan McCain is out here tweeting like, oh my God, the Jewish people are unsafe in New York. Not the case. Not the case. But anyway, so this kind of becomes a referendum on what Democrats, left-leaning Democrats, like, it would it really, like, because New York, it's not great for making broad generalizations about the country, but if you want to learn about sort of the core constituencies of the Democratic Party, of the left, New York is a really good place to test that shit out. And Brad Lander beat Dan Goldman by like a margin, like by like 30 points.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really good indication, and it was reaffirmed in the two other races that Mamdani endorsed, that Israel is kind of becoming a poisonous topic for Democratic candidates, much like support for the war in Iran would be. And it's huge because, there is no third party in the United States. No effective one. Like the DSA exists, but it's not super effective. And I forget when I talked about this. I don't even remember if it was in this podcast, but I remember giving an interview years ago about how one of the reasons local elections are important is because you don't build a political party, a third party, from the presidency or from the Senate down. You have to start in your communities. You have to start with your school board, with your city council, with your assembly, with your mayor. And the Democratic Socialists had representation in Congress. They had people like AOC. But what I think this shows, it's like the Bene Gesserit, like our plans exist in centuries. It kind of shows that movement for a more progressive party that is not beholden to the billionaire class, that prioritizes the material conditions of voters, that eschews corporate wealth and, foreign influence in politics, they are really starting to gain a foothold in the national politics. That like Congress is now becoming a playable domain for them. And, there's not going to be DSA candidates elected in every state across the country. Oh, actually there might be, but not for Congress and some of these bigger offices. They're going to be pockets, and they will be there. But I think what it shows is that in this wave election, this is not going to be a wave that is going to be defensive of the Democratic establishment. This is a wave election where voters are going to be voting not only against Republicans, but against the Chuck Schumers and Hakeem Jeffries of the world.
Yeah.
And New York is a cool sandbox where we're getting to see some of that play out.
With so Gavin Newsom, someone just to check in on, a
New
more
scum?
establishment style dem. Hey, he's a listener. He might be a patron. I imagine he should be by now. Gavin is, I know him on first name terms. He's been investigated by the DOJ.
Gav.
Hey, Gav, how's it going? A little bit of a love triangle between me, Gavin, and Chris. Sort of Chris is wanting to fight me for Gavin's affections, and
Oh my God.
yeah, I know. And Gavin just likes me more. I kind of don't want him to, but it's just how it goes. Anyway, Gav is been investigated by the DOJ. What's going on there? Is there anything in it, or is it just a classic Trump revenge investigation going on?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's revenge so much as setting up. I think it's indicative that Trump and the Trump administration view Gavin as a potential 2028 challenger. Like, that's why this investigation is happening, because Gavin on a first name basis, because Gavin Newsom is so openly going to run. I think they're trying to lay the groundwork to kind of fuck with the candidacy. So it is a DOJ investigation. It's technically against his wife, Jennifer Seibel Newsom.
Okay.
I think if it's anything like what past investigations will look like, it will probably go into their real estate portfolio, their stock trades, their investments, trying to accuse them of corruption, trying to accuse them of like misuse of funds. I kind of envision this going the way they tried to indict Letitia James, where they were like, oh, she lied on her mortgage application. I don't know. Then again, I don't know what skeletons Newsom has in his closet. So, But the other side of this is always, of course, it bears repeating. If we're going to investigate people for corruption, President Donald Trump, rocks in glass houses, boulders in glass houses. But if we want an investigation into the way Trump profited off his political office, we're going to have to wait until he's out of office and Democrats have control of stuff. So we'll see what comes of it. But yeah, I don't think it's a serious... I think it's that's the word I'm looking for. It's a fishing expedition.
Just a final one on, we mentioned the reflecting pool obviously earlier, but just a weird thing that's going on here is that Trump is blaming it being really shit on vandals. But is it more likely, it would appear, that it's just not been installed well and not been maintained well, and it's just not very good?
Have you ever stuck a command hook to the wall?
Yeah, I did in my old flat, and it ripped off so much paint and plaster. It was meant to be good, and then they just not as good as you'd expect. Sorry, command. Okay. Don't sue me. I've had some that have worked, but I had some that just did not work, and that was a pain for getting my deposit back.
Just paint over it.
I had to, but I had to get a paint match. It was a whole thing. It was a nightmare, but... They've been good for me. Okay. They've been golden for me most of the time, but on occasion where they've not been golden,
okay. You're
been very ungolden.
You're derailing my analogy.
Okay, let me keep going with the metaphor. Just you hit a personal point for me there. I've got beef with command strips, unfortunately.
So but you did install it well, apparently. So when you do it, you have to like clean off the wall. When you stick anything, if you're sticking anything to anything, the first piece of the instructions is like clean it off. Even when you do, if you have like a glass protector on your phone, I do.
Sure. Yeah.
You gotta clean it really well.
Yeah.
That also applies to pool sealants and adhesives. And the thing about the reflecting pool is that it's massive.
Yeah.
And it's outside in the open air. So there's like dirt and there's duck poo and there's little bird shits and, little plants that get in there.
Yeah.
So the notion that you were going to be able to just like slather this lining over the pool and not have there be any defects. Also, it was, the installation was a mess, everything, but also the president drove 20 cars over it before it had finished curing. And then the other thing is, as soon as you put something in water gets everywhere. Water finds the path of least resistance. So if there was a bubble or a crack or a place where the sealant wasn't really well installed, it would get under there. And the thing is, those little pockets tend to get bigger. So what happens is they refill this thing with water. It immediately starts coming up. The sealant starts like floating to the surface. Then they call it American flag blue, but in my opinion, it dried more of a navy. That's like, and dark colors absorb light and heat. DC in the summer is fetid. Fetid. It is 100% humidity and like 100 degrees and sunny. And so you basically installed this like giant heater, like heat sink in the bottom of the pool. So not only is the sealant peeling, but now it is an actual swamp. Algae comes in and it's like, ooh, it's warm and comfy in here. Why don't I have a bajillion babies? And then it turns into like a whole green mess, and then it starts killing the ducks because Anyway, Trump was claiming that someone had, and it's also really funny because he was on TV being like, this is, what was it? It's an incredibly thick rubber, an incredibly tough rubber. You couldn't cut it with a knife.
Oh, God.
That's like practically a textual quote. And then once it starts peeling, he's out here being like, someone took a knife and cut a gash. A 300-foot-long gash, the size of a football field, like an American football field, into this lining. It's not true. That is not what happened. But they're arresting people for touching the water. They're like threatening to imprison them for 10 years. They're installing fencing around the reflecting pool now so no one can get near it. They're going to have to drain it again and redo it. And again, it's just a perfect metaphor for the ineptitude and the corruption of this administration. Like, their priorities are completely messed up. Anyway, sorry, that was a really long answer.
Right, let's do the silly question then. So, I'm doing it this week because there's no Chris around. If you could live in any cartoon universe, what cartoon universe would it be?
Oh my God, that's a great question.
Yeah, what would you go for?
Do I get the entire Disney universe if I say the Disney universe, or do I have to like pick a?
I think specify.
Okay.
I think it's a bit more specificity.
What's yours?
I think Pokemon could be quite cool.
Pokemon would be really cool.
Although it does feel like quite a lot like animal cruelty, so I don't know how much I vibe off it. But it seems quite cool.
No, they love it.
They love it. And then I was thinking Adventure Time.
Adventure Time would be really cool.
It's always good, and it just always looks awesome. And I imagine I'd love to just, basically what I'm saying is I'd like to be in one of the cartoon worlds where you just kind of don't have to work and you just get to vibe about. And so any of them ones where I'm just chilling and I'm just sort of vibing about in the world, and that is a sustainable way to live, then I'll go for one of those worlds. So Pokemon, it feels like you can say, I want to be a Pokemon trainer, and you don't need any economic resources in order to do that. And Adventure Time, similarly, they're just kicking. They're just kicking about, and that sounds really cool to me, and it looks awesome. Occasionally there's monsters, which I would struggle with, but if you can fight them really well, that could be quite good. So yeah, one of those, or yeah, they're probably my top ones. Maybe I wouldn't mind being a biker mouse from Mars. That would be really cool.
That'd be really cool.
But yeah, so I'm going to go Adventure Time anyway. That seems like the funnest one. So yeah, what about you?
So at first I was thinking animes, and then I realized, no, Nikki, you just want to live in Japan.
Yeah.
So I think I'd probably go with Pokemon. I think was a great one, but just to not copy you, I think I'd go with like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, yeah, nice. Yeah. That would be a good one. Chris has written in here Rick and Morty. Is what he's gonna go with.
What's the multiverse episode? That's Chris.
Yeah. The Doors episode or whatever. I can't remember who we interviewed for the podcast once, and they had such an obscene amount of doors around them. It was like they were in Rick and Morty. If you're listening and you remember, let us know. Yeah, there was a lot of doors there. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this episode of American Friction. Nikki, thank you very much. It's the podcast of all podcasts. And Simon, he's not around at the moment, but thank you very much. Simon. And Chris, obviously, thank you very, 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 very much. Thanks, and all of you there through the lens, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it, but we'd appreciate it a lot more. Well, not a lot more. We'd appreciate it more, though, if you would back us on Patreon. Patreon.com/American Friction, where you can get episodes ad-free and you'll get a bonus episode every week if you sign up to the £5 and above tier. It's very good. A whole new episode. So Patreon.com/American Friction. Go there. We'd love that. You'll love it. It'll be great. And if you can't back us there, we get it. But please do go rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to the show. There is a link in the show notes to the Patreon as well, by the way. I'm Jacob Jarvis. Keep on chilling. Let's go Knicks, as Nikki keeps saying. Bye. See you later.